20th Congress, a new Senate, and a new world order or disorder. Marami tayong kailangan pag-usapan today, from what we can expect from the 20th Congress, particularly what we can expect in the Senate when it comes to the Sara impeachment case, to what is happening in the International Criminal Court and the case of former President Rodrigo Duterte, and penultimately, let's also discuss what's happening to the international rules-based order, South China Sea, the recent conflict in the Middle East, and the future of rules-based international order, and what we can do to protect our sovereignty and interests in an increasingly unpredictable and dangerous world. To discuss all of this, we have a special guest. Justice Carpio, thank you so much for joining us. Justice, there are a couple of things I want to ask you. Obviously, your background in analyzing West Philippine Sea, international law, rules-based international order. I want to go back to that later, and especially when we discuss the ICC. Earlier in this show, we had Attorney Cristina Conti talking about the ICC, for instance, coping with the pressures and, yes, literally sanctions imposed on them by the United States. And she still remained cautiously optimistic that the ICC will make necessary adjustments and decoupling, let's say, from American financial software system, among others, to remain resilient and strong. But before that, let's talk about our own beloved country, because as we speak, we're transitioning into the 20th Congress. 19th Congress is more or less over, and it looks like by the indications we're getting that Chiz will remain as the president of the Senate as of this taping, or at the very least he had 13 votes necessary supposedly to retain his position. Justice, can it give us an understanding of what is your read of how Senate President Chiz handled the, let's just say, the most important, some would say, political question and legal question of our time as far as the legislature is concerned, which is the convening of the trial for Sara Duterte. What happened exactly in 19th Congress, and what should we look forward to as we head into the 20th Congress, Justice?
Well, I think the Senate President Chiz, when he delayed, he did not convene the trial, the impeachment court. I think that was a mistake because it violated the Constitution. But it did not stop the impeachment because as of now, the summons was served on VP Sara. She replied, and she answered, and there's a reply from the prosecutors. And I think more or less everybody's agreed that there will be a crossover. That could be questioned by VP Sara, but I think the Senate, as impeachment court, will accept a crossover unless the Supreme Court says there is no crossover. But I think the Supreme Court will uphold a crossover because that is the history of impeachment cases in the U.S. So we had a setback because it was delayed, but it did not stop the impeachment. That's basically the summary of what Senate President Chiz did. He delayed it, but he did not stop it. It continued. And I think he did not deliberately stop it because in the resolution that he issued remanding,
right,
it actually says the case is not dismissed and it's not terminated. Summons will be issued. So in effect, they retained jurisdiction and continued with the proceedings. So summary, there was a delay, but it did not stop. So we're now, today, July 1 is the start of the 20th Congress. So, what is scheduled will be they will convene on July 29. Now, July 29, Chiz has, Senate President Chiz assuming he remains the Senate President, he has telegraphed that there can be a motion from the members of the Senate to dismiss the case, and it's a matter of numbers. If there will be a majority, they will vote on it. And if that happens, the prosecution will go up to the Supreme Court. And that will be by August already, and there will be oral arguments. September brings us to October. Memos will be filed. So let us say the Supreme Court works overtime and they decide by December. And if they say the motion is not constitutional motion to dismiss because the Constitution says trial shall proceed forthwith. So it goes back. If the Supreme Court says the motion is good, it's constitutional, it really does not matter because by December of this year, the one-year bar would have expired. That means by January, the House can again refile the same impeachment. So there will be a delay. This will just result in the delay, but the impeachment will still continue.
Another delay.
It's just a little bit late. So it will still continue. I think everybody has to understand that the impeachment could be delayed, but it cannot be stopped anymore.
So justice delayed but not denied.
Yes.
That's one way of putting it.
That's about it.
Yeah, that's
so either way, if the Supreme Court says, no, you cannot have a dismissal right away, you must have a trial, it goes back for trial. If the Supreme Court says, yes, that dismissal is good, it's constitutional, the House will just refile it because the one-year bar would have expired. So then the next issue really is, will the impeachment court issue the subpoena duces tecum to open the bank accounts? That's the next battle.
Right.
And let us say that a majority will say, no, you cannot open. That's the second envelope again. Either the prosecution will just see the people march on the streets, or they go up to the Supreme Court to appeal. But I think the moment they deny the subpoena duces tecum, the bank records, I think we're again on uncharted waters, uncharted territory.
Right. So I want to slightly rewind. What is the main strategy of the defense team? I'm talking about the side of the Duterte team. Is this? We'll discuss the ICC later. Is this their own version of questioning basically the validity and jurisdiction of the whole proceeding, which is the issue of certification and the one-year ban?
Yeah. They're going for the kill right away. They don't want a trial. They want the case dismissed on technical grounds, the one-year bar. But the one-year bar gives you a reprieve of just 1 year, and we're almost there. So what will they do? So they have a big problem now because no matter what they do, there will be an impeachment because the House is still there. It's still controlled by Speaker Martin Romualdez.
Who oversaw the impeachment.
They will still refile the very same thing. I don't think they will change their mind. So, bottom line, there will still be an impeachment no matter what. So, the battleground really is the subpoena duces tecum on the bank accounts. If that is not issued, if that is not granted by the impeachment court, then I do not know what will happen.
Does the vice president have an option to say, okay, this is, let's say, a scenario whereby really compromising materials, or because the second letter was Dodd in the case of Estrada, but let's just say in this case, is there a possibility for the vice president to consider resignation, preemptive resignation, if you can call that, and what will be the legal implication of that? Because you can imagine a situation whereby she can easily count on a number of senators to give her the acquittal because the threshold is quite high given the political alignments we have in the Senate right now. But if things are too politically damaging, maybe even her allies in the Senate would say, hey, you don't want to put us on the spot of covering for you because that also damages us. So maybe you want to resign. Is that an option? If she resigns, would that allow her to still run for office in 2028?
Well, if she resigns...
Because if she's found guilty, she's disqualified from office,
disqualified.
right? Yeah.
Well, there is a precedent there. Former Ombudsman Gutierrez resigned after the filing of the articles of impeachment, and the Senate just did not pursue anymore. So there was no verdict, there was no decision saying that she's removed and perpetually disqualified from holding public office. In fact, she held public office recently.
Oh,
Yeah, she
Where?
member of the GSIS board.
Oh, wow, okay. That's quite a...
Yeah, so that,
Journey.
because there was no disqualification from perpetual disqualification to all public office. That there was no such thing. She resigned, and that was it. They let her go. That can happen to Sarah also.
That's an option.
That's an
Preemptive
option.
resignation.
Yeah, but remember, there's still that criminal case that could be filed against her, and if she's convicted, there's also perpetual disqualification to hold public office. The way out of that is a pardon, like Estrada, former President Estrada, was not impeached, but he was convicted by the Sandigan with perpetual disqualification to hold public office. And President GMA pardoned him completely, and that perpetual disqualification was removed. So he was able to run for mayor of Manila and won.
Right. Well, you raised the Sandigan ban. I want to talk about another. I want to talk about also. Thanks for raising that, because I want to talk about the Ombudsman office. As we speak, it looks like the current Justice Secretary Remulla, as we expected, is basically sending out feelers that he would be okay if ever he's the next ombudsman. How important is the role of ombudsman? Can ombudsman interfere in because there were reports, I think, folks in the prosecution team of the Congress, like former Senator Leila de Lima, Congressman de Lima, said that there could be some 11th hour sabotage effort by the outgoing ombudsman. But many people are also saying that down the road, maybe ombudsman can get involved in this issue, if, let's say, even if she resigns, right? So where does the ombudsman come here?
Well, the Constitution says the House shall have the exclusive power to impeach. Exclusive, so the ombudsman cannot file an impeachment case directly with the Senate. If he wants to file, he has to file it with the House. But the House already acted. And there is a provision in the Charter of the Ombudsman, because the Charter of the Ombudsman authorizes the Ombudsman to investigate impeachable officers for the purpose of filing an impeachment case. And that impeachment case will have to be filed with the House because it has the exclusive power to send an impeachment complaint to the Senate. So, and there is another provision in the Charter of the Ombudsman that the Ombudsman cannot investigate if the complainant, that means the House, has adequate remedy. And the House already acted. So the Ombudsman cannot file anymore, cannot investigate anymore Sara Duterte for the same acts that were already included in the articles of impeachment filed by the House with the Senate, because the Senate already acted. So that's why I said that, no, the Ombudsman really has no jurisdiction. And after that, he backed off. He said,
right,
I will not pursue the investigation, because it's very clear.
So what did Congressman Joel Chua forward? Was that just a copy of what the Congress was doing?
Well, what the congressman did was to copy furnish the ombudsman, and the ombudsman took that as a complaint. It was not a complaint. It was just a copy furnished.
Parang FYI, this is what we're doing. Right? Yeah.
Just to inform him that, well, you should be ready, because if the VP is impeached, then you can file the criminal case, because the impeachment, if you are convicted by the Senate, does not
have criminal implications.
Yeah, yes, and whatever criminal liability you have can still be pursued.
Right. So parang, just in case this is what you got, you can go after her afterwards, right?
So in the current play, we can remove the ombudsman as a player because he cannot come in right now because the House already acted.
I want to emphasize the role of the Ombudsman Office because this is a very sensitive role, very important role. We saw at times when you had very judicious folks, your former Carpio Morales, your also cousin, distant cousin, when Conchita Carpio Morales was there at the Ombudsman Office. She was seen as a very highly respected, proactive ombudsman, and she showed how important that office could be in terms of really reinforcing the good governance initiatives of at least back then the Aquino administration, although in her independent capacity. And in the same way, some would say that unfortunately the outgoing ombudsman in the past almost decade has not necessarily been the most encouraging one. How important is the role of the ombudsman as far as accountability, fighting corruption, and good governance is concerned?
Well, the ombudsman, because the acquittal or conviction of an impeached officer does not prevent the ombudsman from investigating and filing a criminal case. So that is the other option. If the impeachment fails, there's still the ombudsman who can file a criminal case against the VP for the same acts, for falsification, for malversation, because of Mary Grace Piatos, is a fictitious person, and all the rest of the people.
I'm surprised her name was not there, Justice.
But the name of Shell Jokno was there.
I'm saying, like, when Shell was there, it's like, where is this going? No, actually, my question was more general, Justice. Gaano kahalaga yung trabaho ng ombudsman pagdating sa isang demokrasya? Kasi feeling ko hindi naintindihan ng tao yung kahalagaan ng ombudsman office eh.
Well, it's very important because this is really the fail-safe system. You have the administrative tribunals to go after erring public officials. You have the regular courts, but all of this may not function properly. Administrative tribunals are under an executive officer, so there could be influence. That's why the Constitution created this independent office. The impeachable, he not under the disciplinary authority of an executive or legislative official. This was copied from the practices in Scandinavian countries because
Sweden in particular,
yeah. So very important for us, but unfortunately, like everything else, it depends on the people you appoint to head that. So if you appoint a very good guy, then you can expect it to run properly. If you appoint as wishy-washy guy, then
you get a sketchy.
You get what you.
I don't want to put you on the spot. We may have you on our show so at some point. Let's talk about very quickly about Justice Remulla before we transition to the ICC issue, because I think this is very important. If you look at Justice Remulla, some would say he is somehow on a redemption arc, right? Because when he initially started, a lot of people were raising eyebrows. Where is this guy standing on things? He was seen as, shielding Duterte from ICC investigation. But, over time, some would say he has come a long way, at least admitting that in terms of admitting our justice system failed during Digong's time. He was eventually at least cajoled to defend the decision of the government to hand over the former president to the ICC during those very contentious hearings with Senator Amy Marcos. And more recently, he has talked about cooperation with the ICC when it comes to the witnesses. And now he's basically positioning himself as someone who could be a custodian of the Ombudsman Office in a way that could actually push us gradually and steadily towards at least a greater semblance of the rule of law and accountability. How do you see this arc? Some would say arc of redemption. Some would say, well, politicians are politicians because we're talking about a very seasoned politician, after all, not only a person of legal expertise and background. What is your read? I mean, if ever he indeed becomes our next ombudsman, what are your hopes and wishes and concerns?
Well, so far he's been doing the right thing. I don't remember. I don't see anything wrong with what he has done so far. He stepped in when the Solicitor General backed off from defending the president for sending former President Duterte to the
Guevara.
ICC. He stepped in and defended that action. I think so far he has done quite well, but I heard that he had a medical problem recently, so that could be the only issue against him. He was, by the way, my student, and
he was
okay.
He was okay. Is a
yeah,
I'm not sure. I want my professor to say he was okay. You know?
Yeah, well,
he knows his stuff, his basics.
He studied. I mean,
he passed.
He passed. I mean, in my class, that's good already.
That's good. Yeah. Before Justice, you say something else. Let's just keep it in short. Not bad. Okay, just continue, and you hope him the best when it comes to his health.
Well, I have no objections over his aspiration to be ombudsman.
Right. So what do you want him to do when he was an ombudsman? Are there particular cases that you want him to focus on, aside from the whole Sara?
Well, since he knows how government works, obviously, well, he really has, I think what the ombudsman needs is they have to have very good investigators.
Right.
And that means that they have to really pour in resources. And that means budget. They must have the budget for that. So hopefully, that's something that he can do if he gets appointed. But the moment cabinet secretary publicly announces that he's aspiring for this position,
right,
that means he has the support of the president.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So maybe he will have the support financially too to get the institution going.
That means he has already the support of the president. That counts a lot.
That counts a lot, I mean, literally and figuratively. No, I mean, as I said, we wish the best, but the first thing is capacity building, right? That's very key, given the enormity of cases we're facing. So that brings us to the ICC issue, right? So the other week, again, with our previous guest, with Attorney Christina Conte, we discussed the prospects for interim release. And as we speak, it looks like that's increasingly unlikely, if not impossible. Do you think it's because of the backlash, including from our circles and all, about like why would he get interim release? I heard that Portugal was probably one of the countries which was expressing openness to hosting him for interim release, and I think after they watch a couple of videos of the museums and the shenanigans of some of the very zealous support. I don't know, you're from Davao. Ang kwento sa akin, pinapaalis pa nga yung ibang supporter sa bahay ni Digong kasi nakikikain, nakikitulog. I don't know what's the truth there, but I saw in Hague, it's really like he has passionate supporters there, and I don't think the neighbors of the detention center were very happy. So I have jokingly said, baka desperate lang sila to take him somewhere else because of the all brouhaha. But Justice, do you think the interim release is almost close to impossible at this point in time, given the nature of things?
Well, I think the interim release is dead in the water already. I mean, the prosecution has strongly opposed it.
Yeah.
The witnesses, the victims of the families of complainants, of the families of victims, and the civil society. We also issued, the Zambayan also issued a strong statement against it. So I think it's dead in the water.
And where does that leave things? Because there were some people who were worried that maybe his health conditions are not strong enough, and therefore there was some sort of openness and all. But last time I checked, Netherlands has one of the best healthcare systems. I was told by my Dutch diplomat friends, they even import prisoners from Norway or something like that, right? Things are so good that the Norwegians who run out of, beachfront prisons, masyadong mataas ang iwan, they send them to Netherlands, right? So we should feel confident that President Duterte will be taken care of, right? By the best possible amenities so that he can, basically face trial, right? A fair, impartial, and comprehensive trial.
Yeah, you've seen it in the videos, and that's practically a hotel. He's staying in a hotel.
Hilton Hague, yes. I heard it was called,
And they
yeah.
have, as you said, they have the best medical services there. So, and that the ground that they use that he's old,
Frail.
sickly, but he ran for public office. He went through a strenuous campaign, and that means
Well, his cardboard went through a strenuous. I just want to be clear, technically. A cardboard one. Nakita mo yung nanalo siya in your hometown. Like, pinalakpakan my cardboard. So, I don't know. Maybe the cardboard is a very competent.
well, but the mere fact that he ran for public office, that means he has the stamina to
Right.
work as a mayor, and the work of a mayor is very strenuous. You have to attend to all your constituents.
And stamina to be a flight risk.
Yeah.
Just, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can run for mayor, you can run away. If you can give him interim release, no? I keep on telling this, like, you want, if you want justice, you want him to be as strong and healthy as possible. Because there were some people saying, like, let him rot there. And I said, that's not the right mindset. And let's not wish other people bad, even if we may have disagreements and we feel there's things going on there. Having said that, Justice, from your perspective, what is your read of the conduct of ICC so far? Let's be honest, you and I were in hot waters last year when we pulled the trigger a bit too early, and we said there will be an arrest last year. It came eventually, a bit later than some of us thought. But Senator Bato de la Rosa seems to be still enjoying freedoms. I don't know if these are his last moments of freedom, but the reality is that the ICC is overwhelmed with many cases, and add to that is overwhelmed by sanctions and retribution a la Trump, right, over the past few months because of the warrant of arrest they issued against the Israeli leadership, former defense minister and the current prime minister, of course. What is your read of the ICC given all of the circumstances? Do you think they have been on the right track? They have been adjusting? Do you think they can get through this difficult moment that they're going through in terms of their showdown with the United States?
Well, I think they will, of course, survive because the ICC is a project of the EU, and the EU will throw its full support behind the ICC.
Minus Hungary, I suppose. And some of
Well,
those
now
countries.
Hungary has walked out, but maybe there will be another government administration in Hungary.
Sure.
So the U.S. will continue to put pressure on ICC, but I don't think that will cause the demise of ICC for the simple reason that the EU is behind the ICC.
What is your read of the position of the EU governments? Because, we've been hearing these accusations of double standard and hypocrisy on the Gaza issue, right? Some would even say that, the strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities, that was a clear contravention of international law. And you had at least one European leader almost cheering on it and saying, at least someone's doing the dirty job. I'm talking about Merz, the Chancellor of Germany. On the ICC issue, on the issue of arrest, I've seen more, I would say, openness by, some would say, front runner to be the next mayor of New York, Mamdani, to arrest Netanyahu than actually countries which are members of ICC and supposed to be the anchors of ICC. I'm talking about France, for instance, and some of the other major European countries. They send kind of a, not Hungary. Hungary is out of the question. They hosted Netanyahu. They got out of ICC. But what is your read of the, let's just say, fulcrum states within the European Union in terms of their positioning on the ICC issue?
They will be very supportive. I think they've gone through 2 world wars, and I think they want to really. I think they just want to outlaw war crimes, crimes against humanity, because they've gone through that in
Themselves.
2 world wars,
Yeah.
and even before that they had wars.
Half a
perpetual
millennium of wars
Yeah.
since medieval time,
Yeah.
basically.
So, and that's the reason why they're helping Ukraine, because they don't want a country to just invade and grab the territory of another country just because they have the means of defeating that other country. So for them, it's they just have to do this, because if they allow this might is right rule to return, then there will be perpetual wars again.
And like for instance, some are worried that if Europe doesn't step up, the whole international rules-based order could be in jeopardy. I mean, there are people are making jokes that the rules-based order is like the Holy Roman Empire, which was German, not really that holy, nor an empire really at some point. I mean, half jokingly, people are saying that, like for instance, the current strikes on Iran may have set a very dangerous precedence of countries just unilaterally attacking another country based on whatever claim they may have about imminent threat. In international law, is there such thing as preventative strike? I mean, preemptive strike, I think we understand that concept, right? If you have a intelligence that proves that a country is about to strike you with something deadly and existentially challenging, you can call. But is preventative strike or preventive strike, is that something even allowed under international law, Justice?
No, there's none. Only if there is an imminent threat of your country being attacked, then you can take preemptive measures.
Right.
But of course, nobody can say that Iran is about to strike the U.S. I mean, they don't even have the nuclear capability right now. So that's the problem. Because of what the U.S. did, the rule of law, the international legal order is again wobbly, because you have Russia invading Ukraine in violation of international law. They have a territorial dispute, and Russia will settle it by use of force, by outright invasion. In the South China Sea, you have China claiming the entire South China Sea, practically the entire South China Sea, and using threat of force. And those actions are both outlawed, because the UN Charter says the use of force or the threat of force is outlawed in settling disputes between states. And so when the U.S. bombed Iran, that was the use of force. So
Bunker buster force.
yeah, the problem there is it weakened our effort to strengthen international law, because it's like the U.S. When the U.S. invaded Iraq twice. I mean,
1990 Gulf War. And
the first time it had the authority of the UN Security Council, so that's valid. But the second time there was no UN security approval, so that was it. That weakened international law again. In the case of the recent bombing, there's no Security Council approval, and that's the problem. It weakened again our effort to strengthen international law. So now we have what happened there is might is right. So you just have to recover from that, because as a middle power country, non-nuclear armed, we have to rely on international law to protect the West Philippine Sea, to protect our sovereignty and independence, because we cannot fight a nuclear armed state. We will be annihilated.
well, which really lays down the predicate for my next question, Justice, because I'm looking at what's happening there, and then I'm saying, what if one day China says, oh, I feel threatened by the Philippines putting some very advanced weapon systems or developing certain, so I'm just going to preventatively strike them out. I mean, you could see this could be a slippery slope, right? Whereby superpower nuclear armed states could just use any pretext to go there and, take on a mid-sized country that they know is not in a position to defend themselves, right? And aren't you also worried that, potentially we might see another round of even more devastating forever wars in the Middle East that could bog down U.S. and give it really a free highway, to the Chinese to dominate our part of the world?
Yeah, precisely what the U.S. did, in effect, strengthens the actions of China in the South China Sea. the the policy before of the U.S. was they had that deal.
Nuclear deal, JCPOA, yeah, 2015.
With Iran, and the if Iran violated that deal, that would have been the occasion. But Trump annulled that deal. He
2018
jumped
he
that
withdrew,
deal.
yeah.
So, and unilaterally bombed. The legal way to do it is that deal should have continued, and if there was a violation, then that would have been the occasion.
Or at the very sanctions first,
Yes,
right?
sanctions
Snapback
first.
sanctions,
Yeah, there were
etc.
sanctions there.
Yeah.
So that was the problem there. I think they should not have junked that deal because, well, you know, following the rule of law is very cumbersome, but there is really no shortcut. The shortcut is what Trump did.
Which could have long-term implications.
And that the effect of that is it strengthened the hand of China in the South China Sea, strengthened the hand of Russia in Ukraine. That whereas the U.S. cannot fault us for what we're doing because the U.S. is doing the same thing.
Except it's thousands of miles away. Well, at least the Russians will say, oh, this is our natural backyard, right?
So, well, I think Iran should not have developed that, but there was a way to solve that problem through that deal. And that would have been the proper way. Very cumbersome, but, you know, we just have to do it that way. Otherwise, if we do this shortcut, unilateral actions, then you know, unilateral action can be good, but more often it's bad. Because if you allow a nuclear-armed state to take unilateral action in a dispute with a neighbor, then you will have a Ukraine. And the neighbor, a non-nuclear armed neighbor, is at the mercy of a nuclear-armed state.
And are you worried also about proliferation? Like, if you're Turkey today, Pakistan already did that, right? But if you're Turkey today, who knows, some Arab GCC country or even Vietnam, let's say, are you going to look at this and say, if we're going towards a rule of the jungle, international order or disorder, maybe we should develop also at least latent nuclear capabilities?
Yeah, I think everybody now, well, I think especially in Asia, where you have North Korea having the nuclear bomb, South Korea, I think 70% of their people now say they must have
Their
a
own.
nuclear bomb. That's the only way. It's an existentialist threat already.
Sure.
If your neighbor who has openly declared to invade you has a nuclear arm, you don't have the nuclear arm, you're dead. And that's why an overwhelming majority already of their population believe that they should have the nuclear bomb.
And the Japanese are having also
And
similar discussions.
eventually the Japanese will follow because for them China is an existential threat. And of course, for Australia, they have to have the bomb also because in fact they had a nuclear bomb plan before. They were working on a nuclear
they had
bomb.
to abandon it.
And plus, you have Taiwan. They have the capability also. They had also a
They were
nuclear
a
program.
screwdriver away, latent. Yeah.
And together with the Israelis, they were working together with the Israelis. They can develop a nuclear
South
bomb.
Africans too, we know that historically they had that. Yeah.
So, I think where the danger of nuclear armed proliferation is higher here because of North Korea.
Right.
And I think the next state that will develop the nuclear bomb will be South Korea. You cannot really blame them because they had a terrible war, the Korean War, and that could erupt any time.
And
if that happens, if South Korea develops a nuclear bomb, Japan will follow.
it sets kind of a domino effect.
So
And we know Myanmar had certain efforts in conjunction with North Korea. Who knows, maybe Vietnam will follow through. I mean,
yeah, Vietnam is also thinking.
yep. They have a nuclear program, but
Yeah.
moving to that direction could be also an option for them. Which brings me to the final part of our discussion, Justice Carpio. I mean, obviously, we're still hoping that we can uphold the rules-based international order, where countries do not threaten each other existentially or not just strike each other unilaterally when there are diplomatic disagreements, etc. But this was the worry we had with the second Trump administration a few months ago, that we might move towards a world whereby, might is right, or at the very least, unilateralism and the prerogatives of bigger powers supersedes what is understood as a rules-based international order, or dictating the terms and parameters of rules-based international order. Having said that, Justice, with this scenario, this world order and this order emerging, what should the Philippines do? I mean, the reason I'm asking is because we all know what is the end game, supposedly, for the Philippines, right? Develop our own capabilities, diversify our relations. But realistically, the problem is that our resources are quite limited to be able to build up our capabilities in a way that allows us to deal with China or other potential threats on our terms, or on terms that are more acceptable to us and don't endanger us in the short to medium run. Kasi mukhang, I mean, even if we were to buy F-16 fighters tomorrow, which is not even the most advanced fighter anymore, right? China already has operational fifth-generation fighters moving. Like, realistically, Justice, given the emerging threats and the guardrails going away, some would say, in the international order, realistically, what should be the next steps for the Philippine government to protect yung sarili nating karagatan sa West Philippines, but actually yung ating sariling interest? Because we're also going to face hybrid warfare, right? Not only conventional warfare. So how do you see the Philippines moving in the next 2, 3, 4 years? And how do we make sure na whoever is the next Filipino president, tuloy-tuloy lang ito at hindi ito ay basically just the prerogative of whoever is the president right now?
Well, I think we have to strengthen our security arrangements with like-minded states. We're doing that now. We signed a reciprocal access agreement with Japan, a visiting forces agreement with New Zealand recently. We have an existing one with the U.S. and Australia, so we should expand that
to Canada, Germany,
with
France.
with the UK and France. They're both interested. We should expand that, strengthen our security relationship with like-minded states, and then second, we have to learn the lessons from the war in Ukraine now. That even if you are not a nuclear-armed state, you can withstand, because a nuclear-armed state cannot just use a nuclear weapon because the world will condemn you. So they'll have to use also conventional weapons. And now you can have drones to fight your enemy. You can have missiles. So we are an island, so they have to invade us through ships. So that's perfect for missiles and drones to counter this invasion by sea. So we should develop drone technology and missile technology.
Maybe with Ukrainians, learn from the Ukrainians.
And some with India, for example, and
who are willing to offer us technology transfer. They said,
they're willing, and Vietnam is doing this.
Right.
They're developing their own local
defense industry,
missile and drone programs. So we have to do that, because we cannot afford to develop a nuclear bomb, because we'll be a pariah. The international community will just will sanction us. So
as a private state,
not right now. So that's what we have to do. The invader will have to go through the sea, and the BrahMos missiles can stop
Yep.
those warships. So and then of course slowly we have develop our own technology. I mean, eventually it will be technology that will help us. So that means we have to attend to our education. I mean, you cannot develop your own indigenous technology if you don't have people you don't have engineers. Yeah, so we have to really to fix our problem with our educational system.
I think in many ways, Justice, we're reaching that inflection point whereby we Filipinos cannot take our geopolitical safety for granted, even though we're surrounded by waters, right? Because we're at the middle of this great power rival between US and China, and the guardrails of the international order are falling away and withering as we speak. But thankfully, we have great statesmen like you, Justice Carpio, are so kind to share your time with us. We went through the whole, we started with Chiz Escudero, we ended with nuclear bombs. That's quite a range. Thank you so much, Justice Carpio,
Thank you, Richard.
for that
Thank you
fantastic
for having
discussion,
me.
and looking forward to more conversations soon. Catch us again next week here on One News. You can also check out the long conversation on Spotify and YouTube. I'm Richard Haydarian, and that was The View from Manila. We're One News, all sides, all the time.